3 spine-chilling true desert horror tales, unexplained secrets revealed in cursed sands. The Johnson family thought they could escape their ordinary lives in Carson City for a simple weekend camping trip in the Mojave Desert. As the sun melted into the horizon, they set up camp, and laughter danced in the warm air. Mike cracked open a cold beer, and Sarah watched their 2 daughters, Mia and Ella, frolic carefree. The crisp desert night beckoned them to gather round the fire, sharing stories against a backdrop of twinkling stars. It was perfect until it wasn't. Mia, a curious 5-year-old with an adventurous spirit, wandered away, drawn by a strange glint in the fading light. As she sidestepped the shadows, she stumbled upon an ancient grave, its weathered cross leaning perilously against the wind. The air around it felt thick and oppressive, as if the spirits trapped beneath the soil were crying for release. This was no ordinary grave. Locals spoke in hushed tones of cursed land where families vanished without a trace. Little did Mia know, she was crossing into the dark heart of those very legends. Meanwhile, the night deepened, and static gripped their radio, distorting into ghostly whispers that slithered into Sarah's bones. A chill crept through her as she exchanged uneasy glances with Mike. Laughter faded, replaced by an unsettling tension, smothering their once joyful atmosphere. Suddenly, they caught sight of flickering lights dancing in the distance like forgotten spirits beckoning them closer. "What's that?" Mia's innocent voice shattered the night's tension. Everything felt wrong. The eerie desert winds howled, carrying a warning they couldn't decipher. Anxiety tinged their laughs, morphing into muttered concerns, shadows wrapping around them like tendrils of fear. Mike, trying to keep spirits high, suggested they retreat to their car, but as they approached, the vehicle stood immobile, as if the desert had ensnared it. "What the hell?" Mike grunted, rattling the door handle. It wouldn't budge. Panic was palpable. They had a choice: stay trapped or step into the swallowing darkness. Mike gripped his family's hands tightly. "Stay close," he urged, leading the way into the unknown. Each snap of twigs echoed ominously. Cold sweat trickled down Sarah's spine as fear morphed into terror, realizing how vulnerable they truly were. The night whispered secrets, and something hungry lingered just beyond sight. As they trekked, the shadows mingled with the desert air, morphing into formless shapes. With every crunch of sand beneath their feet, they felt the crushing weight of isolation shadowing their movements. Something unseen was watching, waiting. The shadows felt alive, the land breathing with hidden truths. Just when their hopes flickered with the thought of finding a way out, a blood-curdling scream shattered the night. Mia was gone. A harrowing realization swept over the others: trust had turned treacherous, the safety of family now just a gamble in these cursed sands. Gasping, Sarah gripped Mike's arm. They had to find her, but how could they navigate the very shadows that seemed to conspire against them? "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The desert yawned greedily, shadows thickening like suffocating fog. Each heartbeat ricocheted in their ears, growing louder as they pressed onward. With fear gripping them, they ventured deeper, the land that once offered tranquility now a predatory landscape. As they yelled Mia's name into the dark void, only silence answered, and the reality of their situation turned into a nightmare. Would they find her or become another tale of the desert? Nothing but whispers in the winds, lost forever to the cursed sands? Panic surged through Mike and Sarah as they shouted Mia's name, their voices wavering in the desert's eerie stillness. Each step became heavier, each breath a struggle. They stumbled further into the abyss, the darkness thickening around them like a living entity, coiling tighter with dread. "Maybe," Sarah whispered, her voice trembling, "we should split up." Mike shook his head violently. "No. Absolutely not. We stick together. Every instinct screamed caution. The desert, so tranquil in the daylight, now warped into a sinister landscape. Shadows danced in their peripheral vision, darting in and out like craving predators. The stars above, flickering in haunts of muted light, seemed to mock their futile search. The closest edge of the desert appeared to stretch on forever, an unending expanse where warmth turned to bone-chilling cold. It felt as if the very land was breathing, alive with something unspeakable. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, praying that when she reopened them, this would all be a dream. Mia! She called again, her voice now cracking, fear gripping her heart in a vice. Something shifted in the dark. A fleeting sound, a rustle of sand. Sarah's heart raced. She turned to Mike, who stood rigid, eyes wide, scanning the void. "Did you hear that?" he breathed, barely a whisper. "Yeah," she replied, dread settling coldly in her gut. It sounded like something moving. As they inched closer to the source, the shadows peeled away like fabric, revealing an old, twisted bush illuminated sporadically by flickering moonlight. Beneath it, something glimmered, a reflection catching Sarah's eye. Hope flared briefly in her chest, but as they approached, dread took hold again. Mia's small stuffed bear, its threadbare fur matted with dust, lay abandoned at its roots. "No, no, no," Mike murmured, kneeling to pick it up. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. "Mia! Where are you?" she screamed into the cruel silence. The bear was untouched, a chilling reminder of their lost daughter. Then it happened. An otherworldly cry echoed across the landscape, a blend of anguish and fury, tearing through the quiet night. It jolted through them both like a shockwave, scattering their thoughts and plunging their hearts deeper into despair. "We need to move." Mike grabbed Sarah's hand tight, pulling her along as they bolted in the direction of the sound, driven by primal fear. The ground beneath them shifted, grains of sand loosening and slipping, as if the desert itself was trying to swallow them whole. "Mike! What if it's?" Sarah hesitated, dread curling in her throat. "Don't think. Just follow me," he urged, adrenaline coursing through his veins. Every instinct told him they were racing against time, but the desert breathed around them, each gust of wind whispering twisted secrets, blurring sanity and fear. A sudden flash caught their attention, the flickering lights from earlier that had lured Mia. Were they luring them too? The lights flickered again, more intense now, almost alive, pulsing in rhythm with the frantic beat of their hearts. "Mia!" They shouted once more, their cries ricocheted through the night, but again the silence was their only answer. They plunged ahead, each step an act of desperation. Suddenly, the ground before them dropped sharply into a hollow canyon, a mouth gaping wide and dark. From deep within, a cold laughter reverberated, chilling them to the bone. Then, as if on cue, the flickering lights converged into a single point, a figure standing at the edge of the abyss. It was indistinct, shrouded in darkness, yet something keenly familiar. "Mia!" they gasped in unison. But as they moved closer, it turned. A face they knew well, but not entirely theirs, twisted into a smile that stretched too wide, eyes gleaming with something hollow. "What have you brought us?" it hissed, the voice an echo of a little girl, yet laced with malice. This wasn't their daughter. Not anymore. Fear coursed through Mike and Sarah as they understood if their little girl was lost, what remained was a mirage, a promise of the reality they once held dear, now shattered into jagged pieces of horror. They watched helplessly as the shadows shifted around the figure, threatening to pull them into the depths of chaos. Desperately, they had to decide, confront the nightmare staring back at them or race back into the dark, risking everything to escape. But was escape even possible? The answer loomed above them, as haunting as the abyss itself. The air thickened around them, a tangible weight pressing down on Mike and Sarah as they stood frozen, staring into the abyss. The laughter echoed again, deep and resonant, sending a shiver racing down their spines. Shadows writhed, spilling from the figure. If this twisted reflection of Mia had the power to distort reality, what else could it summon? Run! Mike finally shouted, the primal instinct to flee shattering their paralysis. He grabbed Sarah's hand, pulling her back from the chasm's edge. The darkness behind them swirled, almost grasping, as if eager to claim them. With urgency propelling them, they raced away, heartbeats pounding loud enough to drown out the haunting laughter. Every step felt like a betrayal to the memory of their daughter, a desperate abandonment of hope. As they sprinted, disoriented, the flickering lights behind them pulsed, mocking their fear. "Where do we go?" Sarah gasped, her breath coming in quick, panicked bursts. "We can't just run forever." A flash of memory reminded Mike of the old ranger station they had seen in the daylight, a distant structure that shimmered like a mirage. "We find the ranger station. There has to be something there." But as they veered off in that direction, the ground shifted treacherously. An unseen hand seemed to tug at their ankles, every step drawing them back toward the abyss. Each glance over their shoulders revealed nothing but blackness and more laughter, now uproarious, spiraling around them, wrapping tight like a noose. "Don't look back. Keep going," Mike shouted, his voice breaking, yet, amidst their frantic escape, Sarah felt an ice-cold tendril graze her arm. A whisper, soft yet chilling, pierced her mind. "Mommy. Did you hear that?" Sarah gasped, feeling herself falter. "No. It's not her. It's a trick," Mike yelled, grim determination hardening his features. Panic flickered in her eyes, but he pressed forward, unwilling to lose her as well. They reached the ranger station, a ghostly structure battered by age and neglect. It loomed like a beacon in the endless night, windows opaque with dust, bricks crumbled at the seams. They sprinted inside, slamming the door shut behind them. The room felt suffocating, a graveyard of memories. Old maps littered the floor, and a faded photograph hung crookedly on the wall. Smiling children, obliviously unaware of the horror lurking just outside. Their eyes darted around, searching for something, anything that would help. "Maybe there's something we can use," Sarah began, but her voice faltered. The laughter outside was now a chorus, clawing at the walls. "Help us," a voice wailed from outside, the words tumbling through the air like a dark spell. They huddled together, a fragile barrier against the madness pressing in. But the darkness pulsed, alive with something unfathomable. "Is there a phone?" Mike asked, frantically searching the room. "We have to call for help." As he rummaged through cabinets and drawers, Sarah glanced toward the window. The air outside shimmered, and she swore she saw shapes moving, phantoms trapped in a dance of despair. The voices melded into a cacophony, intertwining whispers that called out to her, growing louder, more persuasive. "Help us, Sarah, no, don't listen," Mike yelled, his voice slicing through her trance. "Stay with me." But she could feel her resolve faltering. Something was reaching for her, waves of sorrow and longing. Her heart raced. What if they just need help? "Help?" Mike shot back, panic fueling his tone. "You want to help a voice that isn't Mia? That thing out there is not our daughter. We can't fall for it." The laughter crescendoed, shaking the very foundation of the station. Mike's frantic search bore no fruit. "We have to find another way out. There has to be a back exit." As he turned toward the rear of the station, the sound of a child's giggle echoed through the window, sweet and innocent. Mike froze, dread creeping up his spine. The door cracked slightly, and the shadows jutted into the room like grasping fingers. "Mommy, come outside." A resolve that felt like steel anchored itself deep inside Mike as he faced the advancing darkness. But as he prepared to shout, Sarah took a step forward, her eyes glazed and entranced, a hypnotic pull drawing her into the impending chaos. "Don't. Sarah, don't move." The station trembled, shadows swirling faster. They were running out of time, but as shadows yearned to engulf their last possible refuge, Mike realized they were trapped between the darkness that beckoned and the grief they couldn't leave behind. In that moment of maddening tension, as Sarah reached toward the door, a flicker of realization shot through Mike. He could save her or he could save himself. What choice would he make? The answer hung heavy, thick in the air, ready to carve them apart even before they had a chance to embrace the horrifying truth that awaited. The darkness surged forward, a living thing. Shadows twisted, slithering into the ranger station like hungry serpents. Mike's heart thudded violently against his chest, a frantic drumbeat against the quiet suffocation of the impending doom. Sarah. Focus on me. He stepped between her and the door, blocking her escape. The shadowy fingertips clawed for her, whispering promises laced with poison. You can't listen to them. They're not Mia. Her eyes, once filled with warmth and determination, now reflected hollow despair. But what if they are? What if she is out there? No. This isn't our daughter. Mike could feel the chilling despair seep into his bones, an icy grip tightening around his guts. Outside, the cacophony grew louder, more desperate, drowning out his thoughts. Mommy, please. The beating of tiny hands against the old wood echoed like a funeral dirge. Shivering, Sarah stepped closer to the sound. I can't just leave her. She might need me. No, Sarah. If you step out that door, I don't know what will happen. We can't lose each other too. The words barely left his lips when the door burst open violently, the howl of the wind punctuated by a shriek that made the air electric. The shadows poured inside like a dark flood, relentless and all-consuming. Suddenly, Mike felt a cold breath skimming his neck, chilling him to the core. His instinct kicked in. Get away from her. He lunged for Sarah, grabbing her arm in a vice-like grip. Sharper than ice, another whisper hissed through the chaos, come play with us. He wouldn't let her go. He couldn't. His heart raced, but he forced himself to stay steady as he pulled her away. Look. The back. Sarah pointed out a dimly lit corridor, shadowed and ominous. Maybe there's a way out. The frantic laughter grew darker, a terrifying counterpoint to their struggle. Run. Mike urged, propelling himself and Sarah toward the hallway. As they dashed down the corridor, the shadows writhed, almost sentient, as if drawn to their desperation. Laughter echoed behind them like a specter. They stumbled into an old storage room, the air musty and thick with stale memories. Wooden crates lined the walls, filled with decay and dust. Mike's mind raced, desperately concocting a plan. Can we barricade the door? Sarah suggested, but her voice quavered. Denial twisted inside her, the residual warmth of Mia still danced faintly in the air, making it hard to breathe. No time. Mike snapped. We need to find something, anything we can use. A flicker caught his eye, a rusted axe half buried beneath debris. He seized it, the weight of it feeling oddly reassuring in his grip. This could work, he muttered, hefting it as he stood guard. Suddenly, a shadow crept along the wall. Mike's breath caught. It's coming. The sound of rapid footsteps filled the hallway outside. Mommy, it's dark. The voice whimpered again, so close, yet twisting in horror. I'm so scared. The icy grip of fear wrapped tighter around Mike's throat. It's not her, Sarah. It can't be. But she already looked entranced, breathing deeply, reaching for the door. Stay with me. He yelled, brandishing the axe like a beacon of defiance against the encroaching shadows. In that moment of tension, he realized, whatever awaited outside was not merciful. It was everything they dreaded, a twisted entity born of their worst fears. The room quaked as laughter morphed, turning sinister, the shadows clawing at the very fabric of their minds, a mad storm of voices promising warmth and love that only chaos could bring. Sarah. We need to make a choice. Her gaze met his, and in that fleeting moment, clarity sparked behind the glaze. What if it's all a lie? What if we really can save her? What if we can't? His voice trembled, a raw edge of panic slicing through. Silence hung like a breath held too long. Then, a flicker of understanding washed over her face, the dawning realization of what lay ahead. Would they both defy the darkness one last time? As screams began to echo, merging with their cries for help, Mike steeled himself, feeling the weight of destiny compressing the air around them. With a surge of resolve, he knew the shadows couldn't claim them without a fight. But as the door shuddered under relentless force, the final question loomed large in his mind: what price would they pay for their escape? Would they even make it out alive? The door splintered, the weak wood giving way under the weight of despair. Shadows surged inside the storage room like a tidal wave, hungry and relentless. Mike swung the axe wildly, feeling the thud of dull metal against the dark mass. The shadows recoiled momentarily, laughter fading into a cacophony of breathy whispers, twisting and curling around them. "Don't let go!" Mike shouted, his voice barely rising above the chaos. He clutched Sarah's arm tighter, feeling her warmth waver as she teetered on the edge of surrender. "We're not done yet." Mia, her voice was barely audible, a soft plea layered with sorrow. The world around them shifted, darkness folding into spaces Mike hadn't even noticed. Each whisper churned in his ears, promising reunions, fervent hugs. They licked at the edges of his mind, teasing familiar scents and feelings he almost recognized. "Sarah. Focus." He pulled her away from the unforgiving grasp of voices. For every step back they took, they lost ground to the poker-faced shadow standing sentinel at the doorway, the grim keeper of their nightmares. With adrenaline surging through him, Mike pushed forward, this time toward a window choked with grime and dust. "We've got to climb out." Icy fingers of anxiety ran down his spine as he shattered the slender pane of glass with a swift blow from the axe. Shards flew, glinting dangerously, and a gust of wind flooded in, but as they stood at the jagged opening, the cacophony grew louder, more urgent, reaching a deafening crescendo. "Mommy, baby. Help. We're so cold." The desperate squalor of those voices burrowed into the reality of his mind. He wanted to turn back, to tell Sarah that maybe they could reach Mia, and yet, deep down, he knew that wasn't possible. "Mike." Sarah hesitated, a look of sheer torment clawing at her features. "What if no? We'll never know if we don't try." He couldn't allow fear to seep into her resolve. With a push, he urged her forward. In the blink of an eye, she stumbled and fell into him, knocking him back. They both plunged into a whirlwind of shadows that surged in like a dark tide, thicker than night. "Get up!" he shouted, panic tightening his chest like a vice. But Sarah lay frozen on the floor, eyes riveted to the doorway where the shadows twirled. "Sarah! We have to." Before Mike could finish, the whispers escalated, shifting into hysterical laughter that filled every corner of the room. "Stay with us, you don't want to leave." It became a frenzied chant, a pleading that twisted the very air. No more pain, only joy. "Come play." The moment of hesitation in Sarah widened, turning from fear to something darker. The shimmering memory of Mia, that beautiful laughter, beckoned her closer. The darkness began weaving tightly around her, sucking her in. "Sarah!" He charged forward, panic boiling into rage. Mike swung the axe again, cleaving through the shadows that tried to engulf her. But for every shadow he struck down, a dozen more emerged, curling around her like a serpent suffocating its prey. "Please, don't. We're in this together." His heart raced. It was a storm of desperate cries, echoing and morphing into a clamor that drowned out his thoughts. "Mommy, please don't listen. You have to fight. You have to believe." He slammed his axe again. Wood splintered, shadows faltered. Then, a quiet voice broke through the chaos, familiar yet distorted. "Daddy?" The voice pierced through the maelstrom, curling like smoke among the baited jaws of darkness. In that fleeting moment, the shadows thinned just enough for Mike to see beyond the madness. He reached for Sarah, his heart slamming against his ribs. "Look, I'm here. Focus on me." But as she locked eyes with the figure in the doorway, sanity flickered, and the tendrils of madness crept closer, the shadows raged, and just like that, the laughter turned sharper, crueler. A final lunge forward, grasping at the remnants of her sanity, Mike felt the weight of despair close around him. As the door shuddered violently again, something beyond the surface began to send a tremor rising through him. Will you choose the warmth of the lie or the cold of reality? The words froze him, causing him to hesitate once more, but they didn't have time to think. What other choices did the shadows hold? And could they escape before their darkest fears claimed them for real? The shadows roared, a wild symphony of anguish. Each mournful wail hung in the air, stinging Mike's ears with regret and dread. He gritted his teeth, feeling the urgency pull him taut like a bowstring on the verge of snapping. Sarah! Hold on, he yelled, tightening his grip just above her elbow, pulling her against him, but she was slipping, gradually losing herself to the tendrils of darkness. Her breath shuddered in and out, fragile like broken glass. Mia, she spoke again, her eyes glazed, unseeing. Panic surged in Mike's chest, louder than the cacophony surrounding them. With a fierce cry, he swung the axe one more time. The blade connected with something solid, a shadow reaching out for Sarah. It screamed a sound that split the air, a sound that scraped over Mike's skin like nails on a chalkboard. They had to climb through the opening, but time was running out. He pushed her forward, hopping from foot to foot, half desperate, half furious. Get up! We can't stop now. Whatever you're seeing, it's not real. He felt like he was wrestling with a ghost, not just shadows. She needed to remember. The air thickened, the whispers grew thicker, weaving through the chaos. Join us, Sarah, we're waiting for you. We'll take the pain away. Twisted promises cascaded over each other like waves, crashing on the shore of reason. Stop! He roared back at the darkness, clutching the axe, its weight heavy in his hands. Just leave us alone. But shadows laughed, a soundtrack of misery, each snicker tugging at the corners of his mind. Suddenly, Sarah lurched forward. Mia! She shouted again, and for a heartbeat, Mike thought he saw her eyes sharpen, glimmering with clarity. I have to go to her. I have to know. He yanked her back, the ferocity of his voice tearing through the veil. Think. You know we can't. He swung the axe at the darkness surrounding them, and another snarl erupted as he severed the connection between her and whatever was luring her away. The shadows recoiled, their whispers faltering, but the amusement only intensified. Foolish man, came a low, throaty voice, deep and serpentine. She is ours. You can't keep her. You can't keep yourself, either. The room trembled. The air turned icy, and a powerful wave of despair crashed over Mike. Cold sweat peppered his forehead. Hold on, Sarah. Just hold on to me. With every ounce of strength, he pushed her toward the window. We can make it. Each step forward felt like they were moving through molasses, the weight of the darkness dragging at their heels. Once more, the whispers revived, sharper now. Come back, Sarah. Your daughter needs you. Strangely familiar, the voice sent a chill racing through Mike. It ignited a fire in Sarah's eyes, flickering beneath the panic. I can't leave her. She yanked away, stumbling back to the doorway, reaching for the shadows. No. Sarah. Mike roared. All he could see was despair clawing at her, decay enticing her into its embrace. If he didn't stop this, she'd fade into nothing. He forced her back toward the jagged window. Suddenly, the floor beneath them trembled again, a tremor coursing through blood and bone. This isn't real. He shouted, his voice a raw shard of hope. You're not lost. Fight it. I'm trying. She wailed, shaking. She seemed caught between this world and the next, all while her voice began to drown in the chaos. The room began to collapse, shadows stretching mercilessly as they recoiled, almost alive, undulating and swirling with intent. Sarah. He could feel her slipping, the pull of her heart reaching for the familiar. Just one more moment, he thought, then he would pull her through. Through the jagged cuts of broken glass. Through the pain. And just like that, her entire expression changed. New light sparked in her eyes as she looked at him. It was a fight. A battle within her. Her lips shook. "Help me." The moment broke. In an agonizing burst, the eerie laughter burst into a roar, washing over him like a tide. "Choose." The voice screamed, echoing in the chamber. "The choice will reveal your truths." He swayed, the window a promise of escape, Sarah still lingering in shadows. Desperation clawed at his throat. What was the truth he was hiding from? Would he have to let go to save them both? The ground shook again. "Can you even save her?" The whisper taunted, quiet yet predatory. And at that instant, the walls began to melt into darkness, pulling them down as if the fabric of reality stretched, but before he could contemplate another minute, the shadows surged forward again, closing in on both of them. And the final question echoed in the hollow darkness: who would be spared, and who would be consumed? The ground beneath them cracked, a deep fissure extending toward the jagged window. Darkness snaked eagerly, hungry to swallow them whole. Mike, with his back against the tempest, pulled Sarah as close as he could. He could feel the warmth of her body fading, an ember extinguishing in a frost of despair. "Sarah, look at me." He pleaded again, terror twisting his insides. "Just remember. Focus on me." A flash of recognition flickered in her eyes, but it dissipated like mist. "Mia. I can't, I must know. No more. She's gone." He shouted, desperation spilling into every syllable. "Listen to me. This isn't real. It can't be." The words felt frail, as if they would crumble into dust before they reached her. The shadows surged, relentless. "Embrace the dark, Sarah," they echoed, a seductive murmur gliding through the air. "You know where you belong." An unearthly shriek erupted from Mike as he swung the axe with quaking hands, desperate to disconnect Sarah from the whispers that caressed her like a lover. The blade struck true, cleaving through shadowy tendrils. They recoil, a hissing chatter rising, filling the room with the stale scent of decay. But their laughter grew louder, a piercing cacophony of torment that clawed at his sanity. "She will never escape. Your fight is futile. Stop it." He roared back. "I want to lose her." In the chaos, he spotted a glimmer, a fragment of light dancing on the edges of the gentle suffocation the window. It wasn't just a way out, it felt like a promise, a lifeline. "Sarah. We have to move." He shoved the axe into his belt, clenching her hands, knotting their strength. "On the count of 3 we jump." A tremor rippled through the floor, and time slipped as shadows reached for him, grasping at their souls like an insatiable maw, waiting to consume. Mike swallowed hard. 1, 2, no. "Let me go." Sarah screamed, yanking away. Her strength shocked him, pulling him back into the shadows. Panic clasped his throat. "Sarah!" he shouted, plunging forward. A flash of icy dread coursed through him. The shadows gripped her tighter now, tendrils coiling around her arms, whispering malicious promises that dripped with temptation. "Let me in. Let me go." She shouted, her voice a raw edge of panic. "No." He surged forward, capturing her wrist and wrenching her back. Every inch of him screamed as terror clawed at his guts. "Fight it. You're stronger than they are." A quiver passed through her body, her skin radiating a warmth that shattered the grips of shadow. That moment hung heavy, the tides of darkness struggling to envelop them both. "I'll always choose you," she cried, clenching her eyes shut. "Then choose." The voice of the darkness smirked, dual emotions of anger and desperation fusing in Mike's heart. In that strained second, it hit him a wicked thought, coiling like smoke through the corners of his mind. What if he let her go? Let the darkness take her, and then what? What would become of him? A new horror twisted his stomach, binding him tighter in his resolve. 3. He lunged for the window again, pulling her closer, past the encroaching shadows, feeling the warmth of her skin against his. But the shadows closed tighter, their laughter cloaked in despair. It was about to snap. Jump. In one fluid motion, they leaped together, the world buckling below their feet as they soared. For a heartbeat, they were free, weightless. The whispers fell behind them, debtors recoiling as the window's light enveloped them. Then the darkness burst in, vicious and furious, its essence clawing at their heels. Mike's heart raced. How could they escape? Was it enough? Just as the shadows lunged, an invisible barrier shattered everything behind them. A blinding flash consumed the air, beams of pure energy scattering dark echoes. They tumbled through the window, a whirlpool of shadow and light melding together. And then they fell. From the darkness emerged a scream, swirling, choking Mike's heart as a horrifying thought clawed at him. What if they leaped into the abyss, not salvation? What if he gasped, the thought lodging in his throat? As his body hit the ground, a tremor echoed down his spine, a rush of clarity. He was not alone. And then he felt it. A cold grip wrapping around his ankle. Help! He looked back, and the shadows flared, revealing a horrid glimpse of a figure. One that left him breathless with truth. Sarah. But the shadows only laughed, and a new darkness stirred within him, asking one final question: who was truly lost? The ground felt uneven, shifting like a living thing beneath Mike. Panic surged within him as he struggled to comprehend the horror unfolding before him. The sharp edges of a realization pierced through the tempest around him. The dark entity they thought they had escaped wasn't finished. Sarah! He screamed again, heart pounding like war drums. He wrenched away from the cold grip that clawed at his ankle, the shadows swirling, feeding on his fear. He wasn't prepared for the nightmare before him. She lay sprawled on the ground, breathlessly whispering, "Mike, help me!" Her eyes fluttered, half-closed, battling against unseen forces. Her beauty shimmered even in this malevolence, but behind her, the shadows danced, growing thicker and more chaotic. An indigo mist wrapped around her body, pulsating with pulsating energy. Her energy. Hold on. He lunged toward her, the very air feeling like a vice around him. Each step was a fight against the weight of despair pressing down, suffocating and disorienting. "I can't." Sarah's voice became a frail echo, desperately vulnerable. "It's calling me back, don't listen." Tears stung his eyes, mixing with the sweat of exertion. "Fight. You are stronger. Let me go, Mike." "It's too late." The shadows, brimming with enmity, twisted around her silently, whispering accusations that set his heart on fire. "This is where I belong, where it's safe." The words sliced through him, each syllable like an icy dagger. "Safe? No!" he bellowed, desperation creeping harder into his voice. He dashed forward, falling to his knees beside her. He gripped her shoulders, staring deep into her eyes, searching for the flicker of recognition. "This isn't you, Sarah. Remember us. Remember Mia." A sudden jolt of energy coursed through her body, her fingers brushing against the dirt as the shadows wrapped tighter. He was losing her, he felt it, like a hand was pulling him into the void with her. "Fight. Our love is stronger than this darkness," he shouted. Yet another shadow snapped at his hands, a serpentine anger crackling in the air, and a primal scream echoed from the depths around them. Then it happened. Her grip tightened on his wrist, her eyes blazing with defiance. "Mike, help me stand." He pulled her up, both of them shaking, the world spinning. She locked her gaze on the swirling chaos, on the dark that promised safety and the familiar embrace of oblivion. "Lead it away," a desperate thought carried through his heart. He had to confront it. Taking a breath that felt like shards of glass, he turned, bursting into the night. "Come on. The shadows surged behind them, a thunderous roar echoing as he pulled Sarah with him. Each step felt like running through molasses, the air thick with despair trying to root him to the ground. "Where do we go?" she breathed, a hint of hope tangled with fear. "To the high ground. We must break free of this nightmare." A sudden flicker of light caught his eye, just ahead. It beckoned from up the hill, a gemstone of hope in the consuming dark. Behind, the darkness swirled angrily, monstrous forms emerging, mocking their every move. "Mike!" Sarah gasped, slipping slightly as the ground roiled. He tightened his grip, pushing forward with the last of his strength. "Stay with me. Just a bit further." And then they were there. The edge of a precipice loomed above them, the horizon stretching far and wide, dotted with faint echoes of twilight lingering against the incoming night. "What if," she whispered, fear slicing through their fragile bond. "No!" he shouted, overwhelmed. "We can't. There must be a way out. We can find it together." But as the shadows drew closer, he knew. Doubt and horror seeped into his bones. The bright light flickered, and just as it did, he glanced back. With that single moment, he saw Neil, the twisted, dark figure of Mia's form condensed within the shadows, a grotesque reflection of everything he feared, not just for Sarah, but for himself. And the laughter of the shadows rippled through the air as Mike shuddered violently, dread pressing against him. Sarah, what if he looked back? But was it too late now to escape the darkness, or was the real danger still waiting for them in the light? The light flashed and then snuffed out. Mike's heart raced, thrumming wildly as the flicker vanished. An overwhelming silence swallowed the world. It squeezed his lungs, like a tight fist, squeezing him until he could hardly breathe. Cunning whispers began to slither through the air, echoing with grotesque familiarity. They chanted Sarah's name, blending it with the cruel mockery of the shadows. "Get up!" he gasped, pulling at her one last time. Fear gripped him, driving him to shake her, to encourage her to rise. "Fight! We don't have time." But Sarah, once full of life, seemed to wilt under the weight of despair. The shadows wrapped tighter, burrowing greedily into her skin. The indigo mist pulsed rhythmically, drawing her energy like a moth to a flame. Her resolve weakened. "Mike, I can't, it's too strong, no. You will not give in. We have to stay together." He looked around, frantic, searching for anything that could help them. A rock, a branch, something to fight back with. Each passing second felt like an eternity. Then he heard laughter, not the innocent giggles of children playing but the deep, rumbling cackles of the shadows themselves. It echoed, reverberating through the blackness, crawling under his skin. His hands shook, and he clenched his fists, trying to hold on to the fragments of courage left in him. "Sarah, listen," he stammered, desperately grasping for anything that could spark her will. "We've been through so much. Remember that time in the park? We laughed until we cried. Remember Mia's laughing face? This place isn't who we are." Her brow furrowed, a flicker of life returning to her eyes. But it was fleeting. The shadows, sensing her defiance, lashed out, creeping closer, their tendrils flicking like serpents. Each hiss sent chills up his spine, and he tightened his grip. "Together, Sarah," he urged. "On the count of 3, we take a leap. Trust me. What if it's a trap?" She looked torn, her tone a blend of fear and hope. "Enough." Mike's voice cracked as he bellowed. "It's now or never." 1, 2, the darkness surged, thrashing in rage, clawing at his body, clawing at Sarah's spirit. 3. They leaped. For a moment, time stretched, the air clean and untethered from dread. Weightless, they soared above the abyss. But as they fell, the shadows reached for them, snatching at their ankles, drawing them back into a void. Panic surged anew as they hit the ground, tumbling into darkness, but it wasn't soft earth, it was a field of cold, damp stones. He scrambled, heart hammering. Are we safe? Sarah's voice trembled as Mike pulled her up. Look! He managed to say, flicked on a flashlight they'd forgotten about in the chaos. The beam sliced through the shadows, revealing faces. Hundreds of faces trapped in the stone. Their mouths gaped silently, frozen in horror, their eyes wide with despair. We're not alone, Mike whispered, the revelation chilling him to the bone as he scanned their expressions. Would they become like them? Would dark tendrils of despair choke the light from their souls just like here? No! Sarah screamed, an echo of defiance. This can't be our end. Suddenly, the ground trembled violently. Mike glanced sideways, heart dropping. The shadows swarmed, expanding, the whispering voices growing louder, a cacophony of suffering. Run! Mike yelled, grabbing Sarah's hand tight, racing through the field of stone. But with each step, the shadows surged higher, flickering like flames eager to consume them. Overhead, dark shapes, indistinct and monstrous, began to form, swirling, as if pushing through from another realm. Mike, she breathed, glancing back, the terror in her eyes unmistakable. No! Keep going. But it was closing in, each breath heavier than the last, filling with the tang of decay. As they burst from the field, Mike felt a sudden weight, an unseen pull clawing at their backs. Don't look back! He ordered, the urgency piercing the air, but Sarah stumbled, and as Mike reached to help her, he hesitated. Would the grip of darkness pull her down? He felt it then, an icy hand on his shoulder, the unmistakable chill creeping down his spine. Was it too late for either of them? Had it truly come for them, or was this just the beginning? With the shadows swirling relentlessly, he turned to Sarah, who was now transfixed, staring into the darkness. Sarah! We must move. But would he have the strength to save her, or was there a cost hidden in the light of escape? The shadows twisted ominously around them, whispering promises of despair that clawed at Mike's heart and mind. He could feel the pull, the icy fingers reaching out for them, but he gritted his teeth. Somewhere deep within the chaos, he felt something, the strength of his love for Sarah and Mia. Sarah! We're not lost. We're not finished yet. Mike yelled, his voice piercing through the murmurings of the shadows. He fought against the agony tightening in his chest, urgency igniting every nerve ending. Remember our family, the campfire, the laughter. Her gaze flickered towards him, the forced hope cresting through her sorrow. But it hurts, I can't remember. He tugged her closer, his hands firm against her shoulders. Fight. You are stronger than this. Focus on us. Hold on to our memories. Their past unfurled in flashes before him, Mia's laughter, Sarah's warm smile, the sound of their unified joy. They were fuel, igniting a burning light within the consuming dark. Suddenly, the shadows lunged, overwhelming him with despair, their laughter twisting and gnawing at his sanity. Submit. Embrace your fate. No. Mike roared into the depths, brandishing the beam of his flashlight, desperate to illuminate the encroaching blackness. He could see them, faces of anguish clamoring to collect his soul alongside them. This isn't who we are. With every ounce of desperate determination, he forced Sarah to leap again, fueled by the urgency of love and memory. Let us go. Follow my lead. Together, they surged forward, an electric connection of warmth amidst encroaching cold. The ground groaned and buckled beneath them, yet they ran harder, heads held high, filled with steely resolve. Keep moving. He urged, his voice a lifeline wrapped in painful pleading. They sprinted toward the brief glimmer of hope flaring in the distance, just within reach. The whispers cranked higher, flooding their ears as shadows stretched and twisted like serpents ready to strike. But Mike clung to his fierce belief that they had to break through the clutches of despair. Mike! It's too dark. She cried, terror flatlining her voice. Just focus on me. We're a family. We will not break. He pushed forward, the words spilling in a fervent chant. In that moment, he caught sight of Mia, the image of her small, shining face bouncing like a beacon in the horror around them. Through the tempest, there she was, arms outstretched, radiating warmth and innocence. "You can't let them take me, Daddy." Her voice broke through, piercing the tormenting fog. "I won, sweetheart." With that, they bounded toward the light, the shadows gnashing and howling, wrathful that they couldn't be contained. "Leave her. She belongs to us." The echoes screamed in unison, each voice a reminder of the horrors they had faced. Almost there. Mike's heart thundered, adrenaline soaring as they pushed through the dark tendrils snapping at their heels. With one final burst of strength, they leaped towards the light, breaking through into a vast expanse of ethereal brilliance. Time stilled as they emerged, tumbling out of darkness and into a realm of quiet serenity. Sunlight bathed their faces, washing over them like a warm embrace. Mike gasped for air, lungs flooding with the life-affirming energy around them. He turned to Sarah, who blinked against the harsh glare. "We did it," her voice trembled, a fragile whisper of disbelief wrapping around them like a life jacket. "I think we're free," he replied, an unfamiliar weight lifted from his chest, darkness finally seeping away. Together, they collapsed onto the soft earth, tears streaming down their faces, exhausted, relieved, but whole. "Where's Mia?" Sarah's voice quivered as they looked around, confusion breaking through their post-rescue high, but in that moment, the air shimmered, and gradually Mia appeared, as if summoned back from the void. Her laughter echoed, sweet and pure, the echoes wrapping around them a reminder of everything they fought to save. "Mama! Daddy!" The little girl sprinted toward them, laughter echoing, filling their hearts with warmth and light. Tears fell freely, cascading down their cheeks. Mike scooped Mia into his arms, holding her tight as fear and terror melted away into profound gratitude. "We found you, baby. We're together," he said, choking on emotion. Sarah wrapped her arms around both of them, closing her eyes, allowing deep breaths to fill her. Smiles broke across their faces, colors shining vividly as they stood reunited in these new, sacred sands. As the desert winds shifted, they felt the gentle call of peace wrapping around them like a warm hug. The shadows evaporated into forgotten nightmares. They were free now, bathed in sunlight, a chance to begin again, but as they turned to leave, Mike glanced over his shoulder, one last gaze at the dust-strewn remnants, echoes of horror behind them. He held tight to Sarah and Mia, his heart steady. Those memories would never haunt them again. "Let us go home," he said gently, determination blooming in his heart. As they stepped forward into the bright horizon, the darkness faded behind them, forever lost in the sands of time. Thank you for being part of this journey. If you love this conclusion, you need to subscribe now to our channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help spread these tales. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. What did you think? And for real, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this remarkable conclusion. Your support means everything. Let's keep these stories alive together.